So this is your love reading for Valentine's. It's not time bound, but because I only do these readings once a year, it's fair to assume that it's for a fairly long time. Well, most of the readings have been about perceptions of love and incorrect perceptions of love. I'm not sure that yours is, but there are problems. The central card talks of nightmares. And if you look at the top middle, we have the moon card, fear. Top right, the outcome is one of conflict. So if you're in a relationship, it doesn't look to be happy at the moment. Now, I don't know how to interpret the past, because we have the card of charity. Most people felt considerably wealthier in the past, and maybe that's all it's telling us. Your current energy is that of determination, but slow progress. The outcome, and you can change the outcome, you have free will, but is one of you being blessed by the universe, but you being by yourself. Now, I'm not certain from this spread if you actually have a partner, or it's just saying you don't find one. What leads to the outcome is a recognition that you're carrying an immense burden, but an end is in sight. Does that suggest that in the past you had a relationship and you no longer do? Is that the burden? I don't know. What would change the outcome is a card of fear of the unknown. But I don't quite know how it changes it, because the outcome is a card of conflict. But it's a conflict that probably could be resolved if only you talked it through with someone. So maybe you do have a partner, or maybe you have love interests, let's put it that way, and one could be better if only you talked it through. I'm not sure, but stay with me as we try and interpret all this. And now the overall energy is one of you having nightmares. What are you having nightmares about? What are you frightened of? Are these global events? Is it the effect of global issues on you? And is that impacting on your ability to either find or maintain love? Could well be. The world is now one of considerable fear porn. Every day we're presented with a new crisis. Is that what you're worried about? Or are you worried about love? I wonder if you're worried about committing yourself. That certainly could be an explanation for what's going on. Now, this fear runs through it, so that would say that maybe you are worried about committing. You are worried about love. Maybe that's how I should interpret it. In the past, we have the card of charity. Now, I don't know if that's charity coming to you or you being charitable. Certainly, most of us felt wealthier in the past, and that's how I initially interpreted it. But now I've got this idea of you being fearful of committing. Is it that in the past you were more willing to be charitable towards others, including in your thoughts and in love, and you've been burned? Haven't we all? And maybe you're putting up obstacles because you've been burned. That does feel like a more persuasive interpretation of it. Now, I can't be certain, but, I wonder if you had an open heart in the past and now it's somewhat closed. Right now you have a determination. Determination that can be relied on to get the job done. What is that? Is it looking for love? Is it looking for a love that fits your narrower criteria now? I think it might well be. Things are moving slowly, and they would be if you had a narrow criteria. Well, love doesn't happen like that. The last thing I was looking for was love when I bumped into my current wife. And if you were to write down on paper what we had in common, you'd conclude nothing. And also, because she's Indonesian, it required me moving to Indonesia. And indeed, whilst at the time it would have been an option to come to bring her to the UK, I couldn't have brought her adult daughters, I don't think, with me. And with the new regulations in the UK, I couldn't have done it anyway. So it required me moving to Indonesia, but it also required me converting to Islam. So you'd say, well, this isn't a match, and yet we couldn't be happier, because these sort of objective materialist ways that we look at love just isn't what love's about at all. I wonder if that's what the problem is here, because there is a problem, that's for sure. In the future, you're going to be blessed by the universe, probably blessed in terms of wealth. But what I don't think you're being blessed with is love. Now, if you're sending out messages, somewhat confused messages to the universe that I'm available, but with restrictions, you may well attract wealth rather than romance. And I think that's what you end up with. I think it is. Yeah. Now, what leads to the outcome is a sense that you're carrying a burden, a great burden. Maybe the burdens of the world. Maybe you feel like you're struggling a little. But also a sense that an end is in sight. How do we interpret this? Well, I'm 65, and as I say, I'm in a very happy relationship, very happy indeed. And it's a blessing, because I was in a very unhappy relationship. I think, these boundaries that you've put up are meaning that you've sort of probably even resigned yourself to being alone. And because of my age, I know many people around my age, but particularly women who've become divorced in particular. And they're resolved to being by themselves, and they put on a brave face. And I don't want to doubt it, maybe they are really happy. But it always feels to me that maybe there's something missing in their life. And what is missing is love. It's just one way of interpreting it. And if you remember, I said you were having nightmares. What are you frightened of?
Well, we now know you're frightened of the unknown. Now, this might be based on the past, but you know, if you try and if you focus on the past and the problems of the past, then for sure that will become your future. But you're really frightened of the unknown. You simply don't know. You have no idea of what the future brings. And this is true not only in love, but you know, across the board. We're now at a time of unprecedented change. None of us know how the world is going to change. Yes, there's the fear porn that gives us clues. But is that not simply designed to create fear so that we do create a dystopian future? No, I think you're extrapolating this fear onto potential future relationships. Yeah. And this would change the outcome, this fear. Now, the outcome isn't necessarily a great outcome. So is it saying by being controlled by fear, you can change things for the better? Surely not. Surely not. Now, the outcome is conflict. But it's a sort of conflict that's easily resolvable if you only talk things through. So I do get the feeling that you are by yourself, but maybe you meet a number of potential partners. But because you're putting fear in front of it, because you're putting what has happened in the past, before the relationship even gets off the ground, it results in conflict. Whereas if you could talk through what you really wanted and what your potential partner really wanted, I think it could be resolved. So, whilst the spread isn't giving me a solution to how to overcome what are definitely difficulties in love, I think the solution is there for you. I think it's to go back to the time when you were more charitable towards people, when you put up fewer boundaries. Cancer, I get the impression that in the past you've been burnt by love. All I can say is, haven't we all? And allowing the past to dominate your present, the past will also dominate your future. In the past you were more open and more charitable, I believe. And now I don't think you've got a partner now. I think there are potential partners around. But your progress in finding, and you might be male or female, but let's use the word Mr. Right, is very slow. You're very determined, but it's happening very slowly. And I think it is because you've over tightly specified what they should be like. The most likely long-term effect is that you're sending out messages that I'm available to the universe, but because they're so tightly specified, the universe is misinterpreting them from love to wealth. And I think you are going to attract wealth, but you're going to be on your own. You're definitely fearful of things. You're fearful probably based on past experience. But you're really fearful of the unknown because you have no idea about how people will really turn out. Because you're only basing it on past experience, which probably wasn't it wasn't a good experience, but probably wasn't a useful experience. You've not learned from it, you've done the opposite. And you're feeling an immense burden. Is that the burden of you being by yourself? I think it probably is. I think you do feel this huge burden of being by yourself. You're feeling life's a struggle, and if only you could find, going back to it, Mr. Right, your problems would be solved. But you're looking for love to solve all your issues, when I don't think it can. As a result of this, you're going to, I think these are potential partners. There are some around, I think. But you get into conflict with them. And now, the spread doesn't really tell me how you resolve these conflicts or how you change your trajectory. But it is the sort of conflict, and if only you talk things through, I believe it could be resolved. However, maybe it would become even worse of a conflict if you were led by fear of the unknown. And there is a huge amount of fear here. And I'm certain that the spread is telling me, don't think of the past, don't follow your fears, don't resist change, and be open to